Hopefully the audio is okay. So, I got a question for Mr. I believe it was Riley. Riley, I super duper appreciate the email. But just so everybody's aware, do not forget, my email is Dave A. Dubson, Dubson. I put it in the description. But if you can, always use that email, because a lot of times it might get missed too. You guys will send them to the secretary. The secretary, she's very kind until you make her mad, and then but she's normally very kind. But she don't, she's a busy lady, and so if you send them to her, she might not always catch them, and they might not always come through. But she's nice enough that she does forward them to me. And I got this one, but it said back to me, it says, do not reply back to this. This is just for you and you only. So thank you, Miss B. Thank you. So Riley, I'll try to put a picture. Well, I can't. I'll just try to. First of all, I want to say, love your YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. A couple of questions, a new garage door business like myself. Riley says, been in the business a little over 10 years. I got my license 2 years ago. Congrats on that. I'm building up my garage door business more aggressively this year. Location, let's just say he's somewhere sunny and nice, and I'm jealous probably. I'm still working for another garage door place. So he's doing this, kind of on the side, on the side hustle, the grind, and the weekends. So after hours, all that kind of stuff. He wanted to know, when did you realize it was time to transition into self-employment full-time? Did you utilize lead generation programs like Yelp, Google, or did go any different route to get work? This year, $30K, which is good, but I know where he's from, it's a little expensive where he lives, so I don't know if that's a lot. But $30K is cool. Better than zero or negative. Been there. Income for, let's see, days, a company, work number, but my goal. So next year he's looking to completely go on his own. I don't know exactly what the place he works for, he says his days are numbered. I'm not sure why the days are numbered. Excuse me, need a drink. Hopefully you can stick it in, you can stay in there. Because I see you, Justin. And so it's really tough. The reason I kind of titled this the way I did was because a lot of you guys reach out to me, and which I appreciate, but I would absolutely not go into the garage door full time right now. If you're working for somebody, great, hang in there. Keep doing it as a side hustle, because I've been through this. I started out at the worst time, and I think you'd be starting out at the worst time right now too. And that would be, we're going into the R. We're already into an R, the decline. I don't know if I can even say the word. I already had stipulations that the bang bangs that are going to, somewhere else, explosions. We can't even talk about that. So, what I'm getting at is that I would keep doing the side hustle. I would definitely, it's just not the time. It's not the time. You have to, everything is in cycles. So you have to remember that right now, I don't know if you guys are seeing it. I'm seeing it. We're seeing a decline. We're still busy. We're going to be busy. That's the nature of the beast this time of year, because you have to remember that corporations right now are trying to blow their money, and they got stuff, and then the seasons change depending on where you're at. So the season's changing right now, and it always happens every year for us. We start ramping up because you start getting the holidays, you start getting sickness, you start getting all kinds of stuff. We got people that corporations that want to spend their money. You got maybe even a little bit of sprinkle of residential in there that wants to get rid of the money. For tax reasons, they want to get rid of it. So they want to blow this money. So everything seems like it's really busy. And then it's like, bam, January comes, first of the year. Everybody's hung over from, Happy New Year, the drinking and that. And then it's like, oh, crap. Now what? Now we have nothing to look forward to until it gets to be a little bit about tax season time or the weather starts changing. But you got some months there that are pretty just dead. So if you don't have some, like for us, like our commercial customers, they always are smacking in doors, they're getting broken cables, all that kind of stuff. You still get your residential, but soon as the media starts coming out right now and they start using that word, the decline of this, the R, the upside down, it's going to happen. And you're going to see like residential just fall off the face of the earth. It'll happen. Like they will dry right up. Right now, they keep pushing the whole narrative of, things are okay. We're kind of getting the up and down and the swing of the stock market and all that kind of stuff. It's coming though. So you got to remember though, next year too. See, a lot of this stuff is like the big guys, the big corporations. We're all descendants from that in a sense, which it's not good. I'm one of them too. But you got to remember that money trickles down. And next year is the lame duck season. And reason I say that is because you have to remember that next year we're in between. Like, is it going to be Mr. T or is it going to be Mr. B? Right. And we don't know if it's going to be Republican. We don't know if it's going to be Democrat. And a lot of places, a lot of everything swings on that. So next year is going to be just a blunder of just kind of emotions. It's just, I don't think next year is going to be a good year. That's just my opinion. And so once we get past that, but that's going to take until the next year, because when do they get sworn in? It was like, I don't know. It's not right at the end of the year. Somebody knows. I know somebody knows. What is it? Like February or something, or even later when the new king comes into play. We don't know what that's going to be. We could still be in stuff happening across the pond. We could be, so what I'm saying is, like, if I had a crystal ball and I said, hey, what would I do right now? I would probably wait about a year and a half, 2 years. I know it seems like a long time, but when you're flat on your butt and you're broke and you can't pay your bills, and everybody's situation is different. You know what I mean? That's why I'm not a financial advisor. This is just some idiot on YouTube. And so you have to look at it like, if you go, well, I got 3 years of money saved and all I have to pay for is my van down by the river. Then sure, go for it, man. You know what I mean? You can swing it. You can live on it. You're eating bark off a tree. You got it. You'll be fine. But if you got bills and all that kind of stuff, the hardest thing for me, when I was making that transition was, for one, I had, I didn't personally have it, but my ex did. She had student loan debt and I was a co-signer. And I tell you what, men, women, children, co-signing is not cool. And I was a victim of it. And even though, I had a judgment, it didn't matter. My credit went to poof, nothing. And I tell you what, it doesn't matter if it's a local bank. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You can't get a loan. And when I was starting this business, I literally, I couldn't. I'd go there, I'd tell them, I say, look, I pay all my bills. And they'd, I had a low life in my, I had a low spot in my life that I was literally going to do a bankruptcy. And I remember meeting with an attorney, and I remember him saying, mind you, this is all in the times I think we are in right now, the 06, 07, 08. And I remember the guy saying, he goes, well, I can get rid of your vehicle, I can get rid of your house, but, which is always amazing, isn't it? I probably get in trouble for this. Student loan, basically government backed, can't get rid of it. Absolutely cannot. They always get paid. And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yep, can't get rid of it. And the worst part was it wasn't in my control. I wasn't the one that did the education. I was just married to the person that did. And I ended up, it went on for years, out of my control. It would come up and down. She'd make payments. She wouldn't make payments. They'd contact everybody in my life. And it was miserable. It was absolutely miserable time in the world for me, because I had to like right back here, see that scissor lift? Those things, I had to pay out of pocket. So I had to hustle and grind, and we went through a hard stretch that I remember my business partner at the time, I remember he had to go back. He worked at an oil change place, and he had to go back and work for him. And I stayed with the business. And of course, it's just like right now, right? Right now is not the time to get into major debt, payments, go big by any means. Right now is retraction time. Preserve the heart, man. Save the heart. And so, I remember he went back, and mind you, we were working for a big customer, right? This guy just he paid his bills, and it was a big. We were traveling the state, the whole west side of the state. We were doing these gates for this gas company, and I remember this guy just like, I mean, we'd send him a bill, he wouldn't even question it. He just pay it, just pay, just paid it. And I remember he ended up not paying us, and he racked up to about $9,000, $10,000. And I remember all of a sudden, my business partner at the time, man, we can't do any more for this guy until he pays. And it's like, all right, well, so I contact him, come to find out, he's like, yeah, I'll get on that, but I need you to go take care of this. And it's like, no, 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 no. We're not going anymore to these jobs until you pay up some of these old invoices. And I remember he started like kind of not answering stuff. I knew where he lived, because he ran his business out of his house. So I remember I went to his house, I confronted him, and I'm like, I was young and dumb. And I told him, I was like, I want you to sign off on one of those trucks. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. He's like, the bank owns them. And I'm like, bah. I'm like, well, I want you to sign these invoices. I want you to sign these invoices right now. And he's like, I'm not doing that. And I said, oh, so you're telling me that you're not going to pay these invoices? And he's like, well, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I remember I left there, nothing got done. I ended up having to contact an attorney. And that's why you ever kind of get the drift that I kind of say the whole thing about like signature. That's what signatures. So I had no signature. First thing the attorney tells me, he goes, what do you got signed? And I'm like, nothing. I just printed these things off my computer and just made them up, and I got nothing. I got no signature. And he's like, well, you just made my job really hard. And so I remember we started pursuing it, and things are going on here, and nothing's like changing. And I remember finally come to find out, he ended up, the guy that owed me the money, he sexually molested his daughter, and he's going to prison. And I'm like, it's getting better. The guy's going to prison, and the guy owes me $10,000. And mind you, I'm just starting a business that on some weeks it has $600 in the bank account, to other weeks it's got $3,000 in the bank account. And I'm like, the guy's going to prison. And so I remember I finally got to a point, I'm paying this attorney, and I told him, I said, look, here's the thing. I said, what am I going to get out of this? And he goes, well, after we go on with court and stuff like that, we could probably get his contacts. And I said, well, here's the thing. He ran a fence company. And I'm like, his brother is already took over the contracts. He already knows, he's already worked with them. He's already been on these jobs. He's already taking the jobs. Like, I don't want to be a fence guy. And I remember I'm thinking, all I'm doing is paying this attorney. So I'm already out 10. Now I got to pay this attorney, like, I think we got up to like 35, $4,000, somewhere in there. Basically, it's going to be like $5,000. And I'm like, so I'm out $15,000. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to do this. So I told the attorney, I said, hey man, I like you. I said, but I can't keep doing this. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make financial sense here. So I said, we got to kind of like separate here. And so we did. And I remember every day, it was a hard time, real hard time. I remember I was literally staying in my garage. And now, mind you, luckily it was my grandpa's old place. The garage he built back in the day, he had water back there. He had a bathroom, he had shower. But I had to revamp all that stuff kind of in the middle of it, and ended up renting my house out. Because I lost another source of income, right? I lost my ex. And I remember every day the TV was on top of the fridge, right? And I'm just staring at that thing every day, watching the stock market, this foreclosure, Lehman Brothers, they're closing, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I tell you, it was like for 5 years. 5 years, I remember residential was just, I mean, it was like bare minimum, like broken spring, like, and you need 2 new door sections. Well, we'll just let them, can you put a strut on it? Like, can we just get this to work? And then it was like after 5 years, things started opening up. And I remember it was like, we started, like you go there, right? And you're like, man, you needed a garage door like, 5 or 8 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's like, you started learning that it's like, oh my gosh, these people are finally starting to open back up. And I think what we're going into right now is not looking good. So the transition. So to go back on this a little bit, Riley, was there isn't no secret sauce to this stuff. And Justin says, yeah, it's economy is rough. Yeah, and so yeah, so many levels, man. It's out there. It's out there. We haven't felt the effect like totally yet, but it's coming. It's coming. It's coming hardcore. But so it just depends, Riley. The biggest thing I can recommend for a lot of you guys that are starting out and stuff is, how do you make that transition? It's tough, man. It's really tough. I mean, I'll give you a little glimpse into how, so I jumped in. I remember I jumped in full, right? I'm like, I got this. I'm like making all this money, right? And I remember when I did that, I had to retract. So this is how I kind of look at it. I was literally working like 3 jobs. So I had affordable. I worked at a DPW, road maintenance. I did leaves, ID type stuff. I did, and then I did a little bit of, I worked at a local grocery store, and I did produce. I did produce at night. So from whatever, 10 to 3, 4, 6 in the morning, I can't remember. But so I was working those, and there was so many times, because what kind of happened was there's, how do I say this? What happened for me, I had another guy, right? Business partner. And he was very, very I want to work 9 to 3. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. We're just starting out. I mean, you got to work a minimum 8 to 5, minimum. And you really should do more. And I remember he ended up, so he didn't want to work other jobs, right? So when he went back and worked for the oil change, and then plus now we have this guy that owes me $10,000, and now I have a vendor that I owe $10,000, because we're kind of playing that, we were racking up with the vendor, and then it was now, oh man, it was such hard times. Oh man, looking back, oh my gosh, I don't wish that upon my enemy. I remember he went back to work at the oil change place. I'm working my butt off, right? I'm answering the phone. I'm doing every service call. Now, mind you, at the time, I never wired up openers. He was always the electrician. So I'm going to these jobs. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I mean, you think about it now, right? For you seasoned vets that have done openers, you're like, it's just a couple wires, low voltage. Me, I was like, what do I do with these wires? Oh my gosh. And you're calling tech support. I remember the first time I ran an opener, I was testing it. I was trying to set limits while I was running it the full cycle. And I remember it shut off in mid-travel, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just blew this person's opener up. They're gonna murder me. They're gonna be like, what the heck did you do? And I'm like, coming to find out, it had has that overload switch in it, that if they get hot enough, because it was a hot summer day, and it got hot and it shut off. So I remember waiting, 20, 30 minutes for it to cool off, pulling the cover off, blowing on it. It fires back up. Got the limit set, get the heck out of there. But I remember I started getting so busy, and I remember walking into my other job, answering the phone, and I finally had to bring him back on. But what I realized was I literally had to work these other jobs. I had to work these other jobs just to pay for him full time. But the problem I figured out was that in the garage door business, I only have a window. My window's 8 to 5, typically. Not to say you can't do other, but we were 50-50, right? We were 50 commercial, we were 50% residential. And I only have that window that I can service those commercial customers. So I literally I have to meet that window. I can't say, well, we'll be there at 9 o'clock tonight. You know, when I get done with nobody's here, the place is locked up. You know, like we can't let you in. So Jaden's garage door. It's good to see you. And so it was so hard. And that's why I look at it and I go, look, right now, I would not say would be a great time. Even when we went through the cough syndrome, you couldn't, you know, I'd probably be in a nicer vehicle and a millionaire a little more, that if I had, if we would have had garage doors, right? If we would have had sections on hand, because you couldn't find this stuff. I was traveling the state trying to make these garage doors from scratch. You know, I'd find slightly used ones to brand new ones that were in people's sheds that they didn't use. I mean, I was traveling everywhere to get these garage door sections, and then modify them, cut them, all that kind of stuff, make them insulated. And so I remember it's super tough. So like right now, if you can just keep going with the part-time gig right now, at least to see how this whole thing plays out. We got a horrible administration in right now. We got 2 W's going on right now. This is the time to kind of hold tight, be happy. And another thing to always consider too is that, you know, maybe start letting this company know, you know, that, hey, you know, you would like to pursue something, and maybe you can always work for them, because, you know, it's really hard to find good technicians. And if somebody's, you know, honest and truthful and doesn't lie and doesn't steal and all this kind of, I mean, that stuff means a lot, and does good quality work. You know, like for me, I'll work with you until, you know, the sun goes down, because I know how hard it is. See, like, I can't teach you the moral stuff, right? Mommy and daddy are supposed to do that, right? You're supposed to be a big boy or a big girl. But, you know, the other stuff is as long as you're willing to learn, and you're not a total dingleberry or whatever, it's manageable. But you just have to leave your options, you know, and there's no secret sauce. You know, for me, like with our commercial, a lot of it was walking in there, you know, and I'm not too proud of it, but I remember I literally had to, I gotta roll the window down. But I remember I literally had to, let's just say, bend the system a little bit. You know, sometimes, hey, I'm here. I knew some of the people, you know, I was like, hey, I got to be here to talk. And I mean, bulge right in there, you know, like with security guards running me down darn near, like, hey, this guy wasn't authorized to come in. And I'm like, yeah, hey, by the way, you know, here's a business card, and I would love to have your business. And here's a handshake. You know, wife mentioned something to me about, you know, the willingness right now. We can't find, I mean, it's super hard to find people that want to do the work, that are excited to do the work, that'll give you a handshake, that'll say, hey, I want to do this job. You know, it's going to put food on the table for my family. It's going to, you know, I want to do a good job for you. That's super hard. So, I mean, you guys, you know, it's just, I see, like, I get this a lot with the whole, like, Google and stuff like that. And honestly, I don't know, you know, I've been playing around. Like, you guys let me know if you see this or not. So with Facebook, I have noticed, and I don't know if these are just like lazy people or what's going on, but they'll like message on there, right? You'll be on some group or something like that, and they'll say, oh, hey, yeah, I'm looking for somebody that could fix my garage door, broken spring, whatever, blah, 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 right? And it's like, you'll see the people come in, right? Well, I recommend this. I've just had this, do this, and do this, and this. And I've been playing around with it because, like, I can't get those people to hit. You know what I mean? And I'm always like, are these robots? Are these automated things? So I'm like sitting there, and I'm like I put one on there. I was like, hey, you know, we just had one done or something. For $100. I mean, just to put it out there, to see somebody be like, wow, that's really a good price or something. I mean, and it's like nothing. It's like nothing. Now, I haven't done it a lot, but I'm like getting to the point where I'm just going to be like, hey, yeah, we do it. Hey, we do it for free. You know, like, we'll do it for free just to see like what will happen, because I'm like, people are just not. So like, I'm always like, And that's one place you can do it. That's free advertising. A lot of people, believe it or not, I've still gotten things back behind doors. I mean, not, I don't ever do it really for the garage doors, but I've had it where, Craigslist. So there's some free stuff out there. I still believe in the yard signs. Like if you're out doing a job, you should always. I just had a guy yesterday. I was working at a commercial job, and I'm on my knees. I'm not in a really good situation, and I don't have business cards on me. I got the vans all wrapped and that, right? And the guy like walks up on me and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "across the street." And he's like, "The remote's not working." And I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness, like I am not ready for this right now, but I have to." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, sure." And, mind myself, hard times are coming. You got to still you got to play the motion, right? And I said, he goes, "Yeah, it's all steel buildings, steel." And I just talking to I was just talking to what's his name, and he was telling me he's having the same issue. And I said, "Yeah," I said, "you need a radial, receiver put on the outside or an extended coax." And he's like, "Well, whatever." He's like, "I just sold the building to a guy. I got to make it right for him." And I'm like, "Yeah," I said, "Here's my phone number." I said, "You can always call, or text me, whatever." And then I said, "I'll also take one of the van." I said, "Unfortunately, I don't have any business cards on me." But what I'm getting at is for you starting out, you always got to have business cards because you're going to run into people at weddings, events. You're going to be somewhere in the store. Our local, I don't know if you got I don't think Menards is all the way out there, but like Lowe's and Home Depot, sometimes these places will have people that they recommend. Now, I used to have a guy that was an insider at Home Depot that used to just recommend me, and I don't know, remember what I did for him. Maybe bring him a gift card once in a while or something. And that's how, but the worst part about this business is, hey, Rose, I see you there. And, how are you, sir? I'm doing good. And the worst part about this business, though, is it really, it's like, I felt like this ever since day one. You know what I mean? It's like some weeks you need 20 guys. The next week you only need two. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a roller coaster. And that's why don't get too big for your britches. You know what I mean? Like, um, you can, you can jump into this and you can really screw yourself. And that's the reason I kind of titled this the way I did, is that right now, um, is not time. I appreciate the thumbs up, the likes. I appreciate that, you guys. This helps. But so Riley, I hope that helps you a little bit. Like, hopefully you're not getting canned at the business that you're in or anything like that. But you know, it sounds like you already kind of got a good thing going with the side, and that's kind of how I'd play it. I know it's tough because but I just don't think right now like I said, they haven't even came out. We know it's happening. We ain't stupid. I know everybody that's a part of this. We're very smart people, and we're the backbone of America. And we all you got to do is you can see it. You can see it when you go into the stores. I mean, I'm seeing it at like the home improvement centers. There's not as many people there. Staffing still is kind of crummy. It's I'm hearing from one of the builders. It's like, hey, we don't even have a building on order this month. Got plenty of estimates out there, but nobody will sign off on them. So, but if you guys got any questions, don't be afraid. I try to read. Hop in here. You know, you can just say hello. It doesn't matter. I like always definitely slow down, man. Brian, I appreciate that because, you know, what's really sad in this business is, especially when you can be anybody really. You can be an owner. You can be an employee. I always feel like I'm going crazy. Like I'm always like driving around, and I'm always like, am I the only one? Am I the only one that sees what's going on? And I try to like ask people, so I'm like, how's it going? They're like, oh, we're swamped. But it's always hard to gauge because being swamped means they're like, but we're like 5 people short in staff. Well, of course you're going to be swamped when you're missing 5 people, the employees. So it's just really hard to get a gauge of what goes on. But I know it's all being inflated right now. I know it. I just know it in my heart. I can see it. I can see it in the people. I can see how people are driving. I can see people's pocketbooks, man. They're tight. They're drying up. So that's why it's like, I didn't even know when I first started. it wasn't even like I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't have this wonderful didn't have YouTube to go to. I just was like, hey, I'm ready. Let's go to it. Business partners got the knowledge, all that kind of jazz. Let's go at it. I got a little bit of capital, and I was really fortunate enough because, I mean, it's hats off. I mean, my stepdad really stepped up. He really helped fund a lot of stuff. I mean, he helped a lot from the get go with at least with that business, and he was the piggy bank. You know what I mean? Like he had, I don't know, line of credit or something. We did 20 grand, and that was like our slush. You know what I mean? Because when we first started out, it was like chaos, right? It was like, I mean, I just went to I had to deliver something. Oh, Joe's, that's who it was. I just delivered, sent out Joe's gift that he won today. And it was funny being at the UPS store. So Joe, your gift is coming. And there's a guy who walks in and he's like, he goes, I got to send a fax. I'm like, a fax? I'm like, I didn't even know a fax still existed. But that's what I used to start out with, as I had the fax machine. It's just nuts to think that how far we've come. Because even when we used to have the dial tone fax machine, then the internet got better. And I remember, we ended up getting it through the internet cheaper, and so you can only use, like, I remember the service is like you get 6 a month or something like that for free, and so that was weird. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I should, like, what that means on that bottom one. So we'll just kind of do something weird and try it. I don't know. Brian had to fight a ticket recently. They did it over Zoom. Wow. Dude, I tell you what. That's something. Is that too bright? I figure I put a little light on things in here. But I remember, I'll tell you a story. You guys always like the stories. Woo! It gets my anxiety up. Don't even go to the courthouse. That's nuts, dude. So that brings up my brain here. So I remember when you're in business, it's super mentally exhausting. And this was my own fault. I was traveling too far, doing another thing for Lowe's. I think I was going down to, I don't know, like Kalamazoo, Michigan or something like that. I mean, that's like an hour and plus away, right? Had to go do a detail. Maybe you guys don't know what a detail is. Detail is basically, we go down there, we measure it up, we make sure it's all correct per the customer before basically Lowe's will order it. So we go down and do a detail. It's like $35 or something like that if they don't do the door. It's ridiculous. I mean, shouldn't even got off the couch for that price. So I remember I go down there. Now, mind you, I am stressed to the max. I got millions of jobs. It's that whole thing, right? That whole thing. Being busy, but not being profitable. I almost get sick of it nowadays where people, they're like, you busy? And I'm like, nope, not busy, but I'm profitable. Because that's all that matters. Busy, I can be busy. I can chase my tail around all day long like a dog. So anyways, I go down there. I do the detail. I got my truck. I'm booking back, right? I'm in an area I'd never been in my life. And I'm going down this little road, and all of a sudden there's a cop cruising towards me. And so I'm like, ooh, and I'm like, I've been driving kind of long enough. I'm even better now, more years. But I could I'm like, this is probably about a 35 for a zone, So I kind of let off the gas. I know the whole, like, don't be slamming on the brakes, make the front end dip and all that, just kind of, woo, a little 5-0 is going to be okay. So this cop passes me. And I'm kind of watching him, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm not from around here. He whips around. I'm like, son of a gun. I'm like, I do not need this in my life right now. And I want to tell you this story because I didn't know this getting into business, right? I didn't know this about getting into the garage. And so, like, that's why, like, I tell certain, people, I try to, like, hey, maybe investing, like, use this as a tool it can be good, but there's a lot of like caveat to it, right? Because you're working for somebody, you're doing you're doing your jobs, and you're kind of looking at it going, oh man, look at all this money I'm making, right? And then you get the bright idea that you're like, I'm gonna start hiring another guy. I'm gonna hire 2 guys, and then I'm gonna get like another truck, and then I'm gonna get another truck, and I'm gonna get like all this stuff. Because you think, oh, this is going to make me more efficient, more fast. And then you realize all this stuff really like bogs you down. You got to maintenance it. You got to fix it. There's liability. If the safety switch isn't working on the scissor lift and the guy gets pinned to the ceiling, now he's going to sue you. I mean, there's just all these things. So the cop spins around. And so he turns around. And I remember he pulls me over. And I'm already thinking to myself, Brian says, don't hit the brakes. That's right, man. You just kind of ease off, right? You just kind of maintain like, oh, my speedometer's off. And so he pulls me over. In my truck, mind you, my truck is a mess. My truck's a mess. It's the end of the week. It's like a Friday. I'm just like, dude, I just want to go home. This is my last job of the day. I just want to go home. And he's like, comes up, right? And he's kind of, you know why I pulled you over? No, I don't, officer. This and that. You were doing 10 over, and I'm like, okay, sir, yes. License, registration, all that stuff, right? I'll be darned, I can't find proof of insurance. I just can't find it. And I don't want to be digging around my truck hardcore, because I don't want them thinking I'm grabbing a gun or I'm doing something or I'm trying to hide something, right? So I look in the normal spots. I'm like, I apologize, I can't find it. All right, well, I'll try to run it, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, fine. Go back, do your thing. The guy literally comes back. I kid you not. Now I got a carry permit, right? And I wasn't carrying that day though. And so I thought, as long as I'm not carrying, I don't need to notify him. This guy literally comes out, gun drawn, and I'm sitting here with hands on the steering wheel, and I'm like, and he's like, sir, is there something you need to tell me? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, hands on the steering wheel, like, and he's like, do you have a carry permit? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, is there a gun in the truck? And I'm like, no, sir. And so anyways, he issues, everything calms down a little bit. He comes to me and he says, this is basically, you have to have an officer sign off. That's all you need to do. And then send it in or something like that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And of course they give you only like 3 days or 7 days or something ridiculous. And I'm like, dude, I ain't got this time in my life. I just don't have this right now, dude. So I was, thank you, sir. Have a nice day. He leaves, right? Well, a couple days go by. I'm still out just, I'm the only, maybe one other guy I had, 2, maybe. I'm doing the same thing as them, though. I'm just trying to get 3 doors done a day, man. Just pounding them. And I remember, all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, I gotta get this ticket taken care of, for this proof of insurance. So I literally go down to my local police office and I walk in there and I see the lady and there's bulletproof glass, whatever, and I said, hey, I slipped the thing under. I said, I guess I need to have an officer sign off. And I already made a copy now of my proof of insurance. And the lady literally just kind of like sticks it back and she goes, oh, we don't do that here. And I'm like, huh. Now, mind you, I'm young, I'm naive, I don't know the whole system. And I'm like, but the officer that pulled me over told me I just need another officer to sign off on this. Did he lie to me? Did I not understand something? So I remember I ended up, I went down to the courthouse now. Now, of course, I got to drive, it's about 15 minutes away, one way. I go down there, I'm dealing with the phone calls, all this stuff. I literally get down there. And I remember, now I got to take all the metal off me because I carry metal stuff on me. I got a knife on me. I'm a construction guy, right? I got steel toe boots. I got a belt on me. I got a pocket knife. I got metal on me. So I'm ripping everything off. I'm throwing it in the vehicle, right? Of course, I go up there. They got to do metal detector. Something goes off, right? It's my belt, or it's my boots, So finally I get in the door and of course, it's a multi-level building, right? And I'm just like, I don't know where the heck I'm going. And so I'm like, can you help me? And they're like, well, you probably got to go talk to this person over there. Okay. So I go over there. I see this lovely lady. I said, hi. I said, I'm here for this. I got to show proof of my, speeding ticket, or not speeding ticket, but my proof of insurance that I didn't have. And she goes, we don't do that here. And I mean, I just about, like, I didn't lose it on her, but my blood was boiling. And I'm like, we don't do this here. And I'm like, lady, I literally told this lady, I was very upset. And I said, ma'am, I said, look, I said, I don't know if I need to go speeding down the road. I said at 100 miles an hour and a 55 and get pulled over by an officer to have him sign off on this. I said, because that's what I was told. And she goes, oh, and I said, otherwise I'm here. I don't know what to do. And so she's like, well, would you like me to call this number? And I'm like, would you please? So she calls the number. And I remember she gets a lady. The lady says this and this and this, and he's got to pay $300. And I'm like, and so she tells me this, relays this, and she's like, you know, that's all I can do for you, you know. And I'm like, I'm just like, the cop never said about paying $300, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay. So I'm cruising down the road. I'm ticked. I remember I called now the number, and I get some lady on the phone, and I'm like, this is the situation I got. And she goes, all you need to do is you need to fax it over to me. Just fax it over to me, and just maybe call me to make sure I got it. And that's it. And I'm like, that's it? Like, I don't have to pay $300? She's like, no. I'm like, so why I don't know. I don't care. I just want this on my life. And so I remember I stopped at my accountant's, which was on the way, because I didn't have a fax machine because I got rid of it or something. I didn't use it anymore. So I stopped there and I'm like, hey, can you fax this over? So I send it. I give it 5-10 minutes, whatever. I call the lady. I'm like, hi, ma'am. I'm like, you know, I don't even know who I'm talking to. I'm just calling somebody. And I said, hey, could you, you know, you got this, right? And she's like, oh, yeah. You know, and the worst part was, and this is why it's like, like I said before, signature, proof. So she says, everything's good, right? So I said, okay. I hung up the phone. A few minutes later goes by, and I could have called, but it was the same kind of situation. It was a Thursday or a Friday. They were closing, and they closed, and I went over the weekend, and I didn't call them back, and I could have, and I should have. I didn't get nothing in proof. And I thought, you know what would be a real bummer? That lady says, because this happens, right? We've seen it. Wives, girlfriends, secretaries, men, everybody. We've seen it. And I'm thinking, wouldn't that be a bummer if that paper, she doesn't process it in her computer, and that paper falls, let's say, in a garbage can, and come the next day or weekend went by, whatever, and she doesn't process it in, and now all of a sudden, I got a warrant out for my arrest that I don't know about. And then even if, you know, I get pulled over, and let's say the cop says, hey, you got a warrant out for you. What kind of proof do I have? I didn't get nothing from a signature from her or her office or something stamped or notarized or nothing. I could just be driving. It could be the weekend. I could be towing an RV, a boat. I could be going out with the family, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, hey, hon, you're gonna have to drive the vehicle. That she's gonna be like, I'm not driving this big rig. And so that's what I'm saying is, like, so many liabilities out there. It's just nuts. It's just nuts. It was very irritating. So let's see here. Hey, just watched live stream. Don't suggest starting a garage door business right now. Well, you're gonna have to go back a little bit. I kind of explained. It's really about the economy right now. I really, truly believe. Look, I started right, May of 06. And in May of 06, I tell you what, you just sniffle. You could do a farmer's blow. You know what I mean? And people were like, you do garage doors? You do garage doors? You do garage doors? You do garage doors? I mean, everybody was coming out of the woodwork. It was nuts. And we had so much business, and we were just starting out, and I was like, this is great. We got so much business. Like, there's so much we can't even handle it. And we started, you know, getting a few guys, you know, me and my business partner, we were working together. And then all of a sudden, bam, you know, the, what do they call that one called? The recession? That was a recession, right? 07, the 08, and I think we're in that. We're at the top. We're not at the top right now. We're climbing it, and we're almost going to hit the climax. So I really think we're going to have, probably, if I had to guess, the way it worked last time, it could be, it just all depends on kind of what the Federal Reserve does. Because right now they're controlling interest rates. And interest rates are the lubrication that makes America go round and round, and everybody likes their cheap drug of choice, you know. And right now the drug is not cheap, and so if it gets cheaper, people will pick back up. But right now, it's not. It's too high, and it's probably going to go higher. Powell just came out and said that they're going to, it sounds like they're going to raise it again because, what is it? The economy's too hot, basically. So I just don't want somebody doing, don't do what I did back then, which was, I started and it was an absolute nightmare. I mean, it really was. It was horrible. I mean, it was horrible times. I mean, unless you're like working 3 jobs and then your 2 jobs are paying for whoever you have as a helper, and it's just, and like I said, it all depends on your situation. If you're like, hey Dave, I got $1 million in the bank, you know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, go for it, man. And you're probably good. And you said, hey, I'm living in, my minivan down by the river. Go for it. Go for it. You ain't got no kids. You ain't got no house. You ain't got all these, bills and debt. Um, Go for it. But, you know, and the worst part is that when that stuff, so like right now the banks, they're not giving out loans. They're tightening up. So you better have a rock star credit. So you normally don't have that when you're just kind of starting out. You're normally a little bit younger. Um, and so these were things I didn't know. And so I just went out kind of cold turkey. And if I look back, I would have took different steps. Um, because I left one job, which I absolutely hated the job. It was a factory job. And I remember I had to go back. It was like maybe a year or two later. I went back and I think it only lasted like 11 months. I was like, I'd rather go shovel horse manure than work here because the people were just there. You sit there at the break time and they're miserable and they were just, oh, it's horrible. Uh, so correct. Wow. Let's see. Isn't this where offices are? That's insane. You have no proof. Yeah, they were Middle East. Well, payroll too. Yeah, that's the big thing. I guess supposedly, I was just reading terms today, and the old YouTube doesn't want us talking about it, which is ridiculous. Um, oh, so Brian, you worked through the recession. Um, yeah, yeah, you're taking. Yeah, it was nuts, dude. It was nuts. I mean, it was horrible that, like I said, my business partner, he literally had to go back and work. He worked at an oil change place, and then we worked for that oil change place doing, and I remember I got to a point where it was just like I couldn't take care of my commercial customers, and I was like, I need another person. So I literally was like, you got to come back. But the problem is bringing him back. Why we still basically no, my vendor was cool. It was I don't even know. It's actually Horman now, but I think it used to be, what was it? Gatco? Gatco? Getco? It was something like that. It's not the insurance company, but that's what they used to be called. It was like Getco, and then there was Horman. It was like they were kind of mixed. And that company was pretty cool because they ended up working with me where they would be like, for whatever I would buy, they would add like whatever it was, 10% or 20, I can't remember, to help basically pay off the debt, which was amazing because it was tough times, man. And with that guy screwing me out of 10 grand, it was a nightmare. I mean, for a small business, 10 grand is devastating. And I never did get the money. The guy was in prison for God knows how long. I ain't gonna go after it. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. It's done. It's over. I'm not gonna get an attorney involved, and it was my fault because we shouldn't have went out that far. I didn't know it. It was just like we were sending invoices for quite a long time. The guy would just pay him, and my business partner at the time, he was taking care of all the paperwork in a sense, the bills and stuff like that, and any collections. And that was when another tip for you is that like when you're doing like residential, you like you basically, unless you kind of know or they're a good customer, loyal customer or whatever, like you get paid. Like you either ask for 50% before you start the job, and you really always want to cover your material, because one thing, if they paid for the material and they bow out on you or something, at least the material's covered for, you know what I mean? And you got something to work with, and you know the transition. It's like, so you're trying to make a transition work, right? You're trying to like, oh, you actually do have money. Oh, you can actually pay something. You actually know how to write a check, you know? And so if you get 50%, you know, everything goes good. And then when you're done, hey, we need to collect the other, because we were doing billing, and man, it was nuts. You don't do billing. It was ridiculous. And then we'd forget about it. We'd have to contact the customer residential anyways. Commercial, you can't really do that. But, you know, and you'd be like, hey, you got an outstanding bill. And they're like, oh, I kind of forgot about it. I'll send it. And then, they, you know, 2 weeks go by or whatever. They still ain't seeing it, you know, and now you're like, is it the mail person? Is it the customer? Are they trying to stiff me? There's just so many variables. So you just need to be there right then and be like puppy dog, tear eyes. You're like, hi, you know, like, I'm here. I need at your door. Are you happy with it? And because, you know, with customers, what's really bad is that, like, I've seen this, you know, and you guys can tell me if you've seen this before too. I've seen customers flat out lie, almost, in a sense. I don't even want to say it's that they're lying. So they might just not see it or know, but you show them everything. They're all happy. Either the husband comes home and he's not happy about something, or he's not happy the price or something, right? Or like 3 days later, they're calling, you're like, you know, the door, you know, it's kind of making a noise. And you're like, yeah, I already kind of explained that to you, that you have a really old opener that makes a lot of noise, and we should replace that, but you didn't want to replace that. So it's not the door, it's your opener. I about guarantee it. And then you go out there, you have to explain it to them again, and they kind of got you held hostage because they got the last payment. So it's not a good situation. So like I said, I'm gonna stick with that for right now, that I would not try to jump into, you know, I just want to jump into it right now. I just really want, I would say, if you're going to try to make that, like I said, unless you have financials all set up, you got money pouring out of you, but you guys just let me know. Like I said, if you guys are seeing, you know, tell me, to say, hey man, the economy's booming over here or something, you know, tell me where you're from. You know what I mean? Tell me what city you're in, because it all is very different. And some guys, they could be, so here was a little tip I heard from somebody. They were saying that, you know, like right now the residential is kind of poof. And one thing I never thought about, I was watching another guy, and he was saying that maybe you want to do property managers. And the reason being, and I started thinking about that because I thought, well, hey, I got rental properties, and I thought that's not a bad idea, because when it comes to rental properties, you almost have to get them fixed. Otherwise, your tenant's not going to be happy with you, right? So if it's a homeowner can leave it broke. They're like, you know, let's say you got 2 toilets in the house. One breaks, you ain't got the money, you don't want to fix it, so you just use the other toilet for now, right? Garage door, I seen that a lot when the 07, 08 was going on, because people, like, you go there and they were parking outside, and it was like, you know, like, what do you know, and you could just tell with the dust and the dirt that this garage door hasn't moved in like 5 years. And it was amazing to me how everything moved by the media. You guys would be, you know, I'm sure some of you guys know, but the media controls the masses, which is sad. It really is. It controls the sheep, and people follow that media, that mainstream stuff, like clockwork. And I mean, all they got to do is come on there and they go, oh, things aren't so good, you know what I mean? And people just start they start crunching up. They don't spend no more. We're not doing this, because everybody they're losing their wealth effect, right? They're losing, my house doesn't have the value, I can't just turn around and sell it, my stocks, my heck, I remember some family members telling me how they lost so much in 401ks. And so, you know, it can add up. To make in residential jobs per door laborly would be greatly. Ooh, invest. Door hang, not, yeah, door knocking, door hangers. I never did the door hangers. I think they're good though. I would recommend them. Door hangers are good, especially if you're in a neighborhood, because sometimes you're in that neighborhood. You know, I honestly, I don't. it's kind of weird, but like, how do I say it? I don't, you know, I got some amazing people that basically run the business. So I don't deal with numbers really anymore. I'm kind of like, tell me what you want me to do and I'll go do it when you get real busy. Um, but I think like an 18, what was it? I just got a price, I don't know, and it was like, and these are all different, you know, numbers on doors, but because it depends, your prices are all different wherever you go. But I mean, heck, I can tell you this. I remember quite a long time ago, like when I was working for Lowe's, you know, I remember it was like 218 we get for like a 16 by 7. Now, mind you, this is how much it can change. When I went down in Arizona, they were getting like, man, it was so low. I wish I had that chart. I think I still have it somewhere. They were getting like $40 or $60 per install. Now, the guy that was down there, his name was Dave. He was a really cool dude. He gave me some insight stuff, right? That he was like, you know, don't be like spreading this around. And he was from the Upper Peninsula up here in Michigan. And when I went down there, he was like, he's like, here's a chart of how we pay. I mean, they were doing like they pay you like, so like they provide the workers like with a pickup truck and the supplies. But he had to bring his own power tools, his own wrenches. I mean, anything that was that related. The truck had an inverter on it, which was pretty cool. That was like behind the seat that would power. So I remember him whipping out a cord to fire up the opener. It was like he was I don't know if he was full Mexican, but he was a Mexican dude. Really cool dude, real nice, and just really good at what he did. But I remember when I went back to the office and Dave gave me that chart. He goes, I'm gonna tell you right now. He goes, you look at this list, the rates down here in Arizona are not the rates that are going to be up in Michigan. And I mean, when I started looking at that, and I was like, oh my, I mean, it was under $100 to pay somebody. And I thought, my guys would laugh at this. They would absolutely laugh in my face if I said, oh, hey guys, we're going to start paying you per door. And we're going to give you $40 for a door install, for a 16 by 7 door install. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous. It was nothing over $100 for like whatever. It was like 9 by 7s. And I mean, it had stuff kind of broke down by certain, like anything over a 10 would pay this much. Openers were like $20. And he told me, he said, look, he says down here, now this is a long time ago. This is, 8 years ago or something. He told me, he said, the labor down here, we have such an abundance of labor down here from immigrants or whatever. He said that we can have way cheaper labor than you can up there in Michigan. And I was looking at that thing and I was just like, oh. I remember I brought it back and like I showed it to the guys. I'm like, hey guys, we're gonna start paying you. How you like this? And they're like, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. You made that up. That's bull crap. And I'm like, hey man, that's what they pay. Like it was insane. It was insane. So numbers can be skewed. Now, there is a difference between like the whole profit and margin. I'm not an expert, but I like the margin better. And so if you can start figuring out what you want for margin, and so I had, I think it's Josh. Josh contacted me. We were talking about it over the phone, and he was kind of like, how do you, do certain things? And I said, this is the way I look at a lot of things. I said, when I'm kind of looking at jobs or I'm pricing thing, I said, I always like to look at the cost, right? Because I can't change that. I can't change, to some degree, work with me here. I can't change what the price of the garage door is. So I want to know what the price of the garage door is. I want to know what the price of the opener is. I want to know the location of where it's going. I want to know, and I can factor from there my time, right? So I might say, okay, it's going to take me 6 hours. I'm also going to have a couple hours of cleanup or loading up the vehicle. So this is where I got to be. And then I always like playing, I had a calculator that does the margins. And I would use that because I wanted to get into a rhythm that you could start telling your either secretary, your wife, your employees, whoever, that, hey, these are always 10%. This person's a little special, or they bought multiple. Let's bring them down to an 8% margin, or 20%, or 30%. I'm making up just weird numbers here. But what I'm saying is like, it just helps because every job is different. You know, if you're doing a job 10 minutes away from the shop or where you live, it's not that big a deal. But you're doing one that's 2 hours away, that's a big deal. That's a lot of gas. How many guys you got to bring? How much truck, fuel? You know, do you got to get a trailer? I mean, there's so many other factors. And so it can be really tough trying to figure out numbers on things. So I always want to know what my cost is, because that way if somebody calls me, and I'd always have a pad of paper with me that I always kept all my notes on. And then what I'd do is I'd write all that stuff down, and then I knew exactly, here's my cost. So when I'd have the builder, homeowner, whoever call me on a whim, because they always do, right? You're always got sweat coming down your face. You're at a job and they're like, hey, I like you, this and that, but I had another guy that, he was $1,000 cheaper. Now I've had sometimes that I've had it too much meat on it, or I didn't sharpen the pencil enough. So but if I have that cheat sheet to go back and I go, well, how much again? And I go, oh, no, there's just no way. You're leaving me with like $500. This is a 2-day job or something. Like, no, I can't. I'm really sorry. I had a guy that, it was funny. We had a local customer here and really faithful, very loyal. And we're doing a gate operator. And I remember he was like, I don't remember what the price was. He's like, they're doing it for like $3,800. And I'm like at $5,000. And I'm like doing like a really good deal. Like, this is like a super good deal. And he comes back and he's like, yeah, he goes, they're at, and I'm like, can I see it? And he's like, well, he's kind of like, I don't really want to, and I do kind of trust him. And I said, I'm just telling you, I said, I'm sorry. But I kept thinking, if they're going to do it for that price, I mean, that's like the cost of the machine. Let them do it, because we always provide good service, and we'll come behind you and we're going to service it. And I'll make my money back. But if I do it for the $3,800, I'm not making no money. And then if I have any mistakes in it, I can't say it was anybody else's fault. It's my fault. So now I'm losing money if something doesn't go right, or somebody does something wrong, or something freezes, whatever. You know what I mean? And so I said, hey, we got to stick with this. And come to find out, when push came to shove, he comes back and he goes, well, I guess they decided to, they had to redo their numbers, and they had something wrong. So actually your price looks better now. Really? So we ended up doing the job. Of course, it was at the worst time of the year, right when everything's turned into a blizzard. So every day it was like watching the weather. You go out there, I mean, just snow coming out of the ground, smacking you in the face. And I'm just like, I don't do this in the winter. This is stupid. So, oh man. I expect to make on a 16-door residential replacement. Supply and install. I feel like I just asked the secretary a price on this, and she said something like, I don't know, it was like $2,000. And I was like, $2,000. And so on a 16 by 8, that's but see, is it non-insulated? How far away from the shop? How many guys do you need? Does it got windows? I mean, there's just all those, yeah, it says Blackberry Dream. Your dinner is getting cold. Yeah, I already ate dinner. Thanks. Wife cooked something up pretty nice. So, but like I said, it's all relative to what you're doing, because what I do in my business, my numbers are way different than what your numbers are going to be. Because if you're hungry and you're just starting out, and I always look at it like this. I go, if I have no job for the week, like I go, man, I don't have no work. Well, then remember, you need to, so if I had no job for the week, I'd do something for $200. I might do something for $300. I might do something $500. Sounds pretty darn good, because I got a big goose egg right now this week, which is 0. When we had the cough syndrome going on, I mean, all of a sudden we hit like 2 weeks, and I remember we had 0. The phone wasn't ringing. I mean, and we already took care of maybe some of our commercial that we could. And I remember I was like, holy crap, what are we going to do? The phone's not ringing. I mean, we've been in business for many years now. We got like, whoa. Like nobody, they don't want you coming over. They don't want to be a part of this. They don't want their neighbors to see. And I remember I was literally like, we got a scrap hopper. I'm like pulling scrap metal out to take the scrap metal back. I'm like, I haven't done this in years. I'm like, but I, 200 bucks is better than zero. We got to make payroll, and what was the really, really crummy part about the whole thing was that we had guys that were trying to get onto unemployment because all of a sudden it's like, boy, this is getting real. And guess who didn't come through? Uncle Sam. I know you weren't expecting that. You were not expecting that, were you? Uncle Sam did not come through. And of course, all the locations that you go to try to get help, of course, because of the sickness going on, are closed. So what does Dave do? Dave says, I will go down with the ship, but these people need to get their paychecks. And I remember the wife saying, hey, if it gets activated, they're going to get like retro, like it's like they're going to get paid and they're going to make extra. And I said, oh, well, I guess they got a bonus. But right now, every week, every other week, they need to get a paycheck. They need to get their paycheck. They have bills. They have house payments. They have car payments. They need to get. And so guess who wasn't sleeping much? Guess who's doing everything in his power, late nights, whatever, to make sure money is trying to flow in. And it was weird because some people would fill out the form, boom. It was like they were on it. Other people, I mean, we were like having group meetings. Like, hey, what did you do that made it just go off? We tried the same thing, wouldn't work. You had to go. If you're a part of it, you know exactly what I mean. It was a nightmare. And it's just the stuff that, people don't see because normally, and I was the same way, I don't know how to say it. You got your blinders on. You're young. You're inexperienced. You're just looking at today, tomorrow, that date with that girlfriend this weekend. You're not looking farther ahead. And I remember, like, you're just looking at the money, right? You're going, oh, sweet, man, I just made $200 today, or I made $400, or I make whatever it is on a job you do. But you don't realize what's going on behind the scenes, right? Especially if you start traveling. The vehicle's getting miles on it, the wear and tear, the transmission's ready to blow out of it, the whatever, and that's what I'm saying. Like now, it's even like I feel sorry for some of these guys because it's getting scarier. Because if we have another cough syndrome, I mean, right now, we got the I don't know how I really say it, UAW. Let's say that. Maybe I won't get in trouble with that, but we have that strike going on. And I'm already I'm seeing it on YouTube. I know a family member that is having his boss is freaking out because of the part shortage. And the stuff really never really came back 100% yet since the cough syndrome. So if we have that again and that starts messing with the chain, and then also with the two W's going on, dude, it could get bad. I mean, it could get bad. You could be on and the problem is like when the cough syndrome was going on, shoot, the work was there. There was so much work, but you didn't have the product. And it's like, isn't that how the world works? It's like, I swear, it's always like, it's like when you get money in your pocket, right? You're like, maybe a scratch off a ticket, or maybe somebody, whatever, you get an extra 300 bucks. And you're like, man, I'm balling. I'm doing great, man. Another 300 bucks? Heck yeah. Well, all of a sudden that day, boom, flat tire. And you're like, son of a gun, it's like, you ever wonder that? Like you're asking yourself going, if I wouldn't have got that 300 bucks, would my tire not blown today? Because then you have to go to the tire store and they say, well, that's going to be $200 or whatever. And plus, you should do the other one or whatever. So now it's $400. And you're like, God, I just got $300 and now I'm out. Now I got to spend $400. How does this, I mean, am I the only one that has that? It just happens all the time. So that's why I'm saying, like, right now, it's don't run into the business. Slow down. Your situation might be different. I just want you to understand what's going on and what my years of experience is telling me. And like when the cough syndrome, I had no idea. If I would have known that we're going to have a shortage of material, oh man, I would have been buying slabs of doors. I would have been, so we could cut them down. And then of course now, it's kind of like you can kind of get what you want and everything, but that could all change. I mean, just think, it wasn't that long ago. We're waiting in lines to go into the Home Depot store. You know what I mean? They only let so many people in. I mean, we're easy to forget. I'm one of them too. So just, take everything, just take it easy right now, especially because with the business, I never knew there was seasonalities, and there's a lot. I see it with other businesses. It's like when you get the tax returns, it's amazing all of a sudden how things pick up and people are buying things. And then, you know, right now with everything, it's gonna taper off. And so you just don't want to be a part of this. And we're at the end of an administration right now, and there's going to be a whole bunch of bloodshed. I don't know what the next caveat's going to be. I have a feeling they got a trick up their sleeve. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. And no matter what, they're out to get you. You know what I mean? The whole system is out to get you, and it's just amazing. The more you grow, and you start learning and growing as a person, it's like, I always like this one saying this guy told me. He was a business owner, and he ran a electrical business. No, it was door handles. He did door handles, man doors. Sorry. And he says, Dave, I'll tell you one thing. He goes, it's good to be king, but the crown is heavy. Think about that. It's good to be king, but the crown is heavy. And so with knowledge comes burden. And the more you wake up and see what's going on around you, and you realize how much you're being taxed to death, how much stuff is out there to work against you. I mean, I'm just watching how these people are getting destroyed about this diesel emission stuff, you know what I mean, that are deleting, which I'm not saying is right, but they are just getting penalties, fines. I mean, I just want you to be aware of what's going on. Every time you think, right now you deal with a business that you're on the road. You got your own life at hands. You got other people that, and I get it. Well, what am I supposed to do? Just sit on the couch? No. But I want you to understand there's liability. We're going into winter right now. I got to make the decision on a van. Tires or no tires? The tires are medium. But if you don't replace those tires, and now he gets into an accident, you're going to wish you would have replaced those tires. But you really don't need to replace those tires. So it's hundreds of dollars of bills that you're kind of like, do I spend it or do I not spend it? So there's just all these little things, and the vehicles are wearing out, and the stuff isn't being treated the way you'd want it to, or everything's eroding on you. And sure, you can do it as depreciation. There's a lot of good things. It's just, I want you to know. I want you to see the other side. So when you're looking at certain things going, hey, which is really good things, because there's a lot of tax advantages, but you're definitely becoming a marker, and you're putting a target on your back. When I when I was running the garage door business out of my house, I remember, now, like in our township, they decided to change it. I had the fire department that has to come now inspect my garage. You know what I mean? Because now I'm running a business out of there. All these things, they got ways, and now it's way easier. I remember I had to get a business license, right? Because just letters, literally letters coming to my house that are addressed. I don't know how they figured it out, but they started getting where, the township was like, hey, and luckily for me, I was in a commercial development, so I was okay. But I was hearing of a guy that was just down the road that they like busted, and like they were closing them, telling him you can't run that. They were having board meetings, and he was running. He was doing what was it doing? Wave runners, like boats and stuff like that. He was doing repairs on on boats, people's things, and they basically shut them down. And so there's just so many things. And maybe some of you guys know this if you're doing your little side hustles and that. Maybe you don't. But if you're doing like the Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, supposedly, this is the year that they're going to, the IRS is going to crack down on it. So you better have your ducks in a row. You know what I mean? They are broke, and they want to get in your pockets badly. And so right now it's going to get worse. They're going to increase. So if you want some added stress to your life, then sure, I would say go for it. So anyways, guys, I don't really see any questions popping up. I'll give it just a few more minutes if you guys got any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to bug out. It's like pitch black here. What is it? 7:40 here. And the old phone keeps telling me it's doing its like, you have 10%, and I got a cord right here, but unless I turn the truck on, which beeps and all that jazz. So otherwise, I hope you guys are doing good. I hope I hope I answered some of those questions. It was very super long, but Riley, I definitely appreciate it, because like I said, when I see this, it's just like, what would I do? What would I do? And I just go, man, if you were my kid or my anybody, my brother, my sister, my coworker, anything, I'd say don't do it right now. That's just just stick in there, work with them. If you can turn into a sub, do that. You know what I mean? And if you guys don't mind, you're still in here and all that jazz, don't forget, please give me a thumbs up. It helps the algo, helps spread it, helps give me a few dollars. I like doing giveaways. You guys help support that. So, but anywho, all right, guys, I'm going to cook out of here, see what kind of trouble I can get to, see what tomorrow brings. What's tomorrow? Friday. It's Friday. Doesn't matter to me. Every day is a blessing. Every day I wake up, I look at it like it's my birthday. I'm just happy to be alive. So, short guy, what's up? 67 says hi. Thank you for taking the time. Yeah, no problem, man. Appreciate it. Like I said, if you guys don't know how much it means to me. It inspires me. It really does. So you guys are so kind out there. I get all these emails, and I do try to follow up on the comments. But the email always seems to work best, especially if you got a question like Riley did. Don't hesitate. You think it's silly? Ask. Just ask. I'm more than willing to try to help you out. I'm not the sharpest crayon in the box, but I got a lot of miles on me. That's for sure. And I've been through a lot of years, and I've been through a lot of turmoil because I really didn't have anybody to go to and ask. And so I look at it like this is my opportunity to teach my kids, to help you in your business, because I want you to succeed. I want you to be better, faster, smarter, so I can just go to your place, and where it's warm, I can just work at your place when it's wintertime up here, because doesn't that what everybody wants? I don't like the cold. So if your business is doing good, I'm just going to come down there and help you, because why not? So, but anywho, we'll see you guys. Take care. I'm out. Don't forget, hit that like button if you don't mind, and subscribe. Shameless plug. It doesn't cost anything. And like I said, I don't harass you. So, all right, guys. Peace out. Love y'all.